Hello, you're watching Outsiders with Rita Plath Panahi, James Hemingway Morrow, and myself, Rowan Dean. Yes, let's talk about writers, and specifically writers' festivals. But first, last Monday, Ilan Ganeles, a 26-year-old Jewish-American civilian, was ambushed and shot dead by Palestinian terrorists while visiting Israel to go to a friend's wedding. Ilan Ganeles was killed a day after two Israeli brothers were also shot dead in a similar attack in the West Bank. Quote, "Our loss is a loss for the world of such an emerging, bright, shining, brilliant star," said Elaine's mother, Carolyn, at his funeral, where literally thousands of mourners turned up. At the funeral, his brother Gabriel described Ilan as a role model, and his other brother, Simon, said, "Ilan was the most genuine, curious, and knowledgeable person I know." Shimon also talked about Ilan's love of serving others, whether volunteering at Jewish family services or helping friends with homework. He served in the Israeli Defense Forces for 2 years and had dual American-Israeli citizenship. Rabbi Amichai Eliyahu, who is also the heritage minister in the Israeli government, struggled during his eulogy. Quote, he said, "I do not know what you say to parents and brothers who lost the most precious thing. I searched for the right words and could not find them." Finding the right words for the right occasion is never easy. Writers, of course, are supposed to be blessed with such a gift. We celebrate writers because they manage to find the perfect words and phrases to accurately convey emotion and meaning. At writers' festivals, it is not uncommon to celebrate that gift by getting the writers themselves to read out aloud their own words. The Adelaide Writers Festival, which started yesterday and is running all this week, is one such festival. Truth be told is its motto. And their mission statement reads, "The thread that weaves through the 2023 program of literary luminaries and writers is the notion of truth. Truths we acknowledge, truths we feel are debatable, and those beyond debate." Fine words. Susan Abel-Hawa is one of these truth-seeking authors, apparently. Susan Abel-Hawa is one of the invited speakers at the Adelaide Writers Festival. She'll be speaking at 1:15 on Tuesday on the north stage of the Pioneer Women's Memorial Garden. I'm not quite sure what the Pioneer Women of South Australia would make of her writings, but that's another story. What we do know is that the Labor Premier of South Australia, Peter Malinauskas, is funding the festival with taxpayers' money, including, therefore, funding Susan Abel-Hawa. Unlike Rabbi Eliyahu, Susan Abel-Hawa did not search for the right words to describe the appalling murder of Ilan Ganeles. She hopped straight onto Twitter to describe Ilan, the victim of this crime, as, quote, human garbage, her words. Here's what she wrote about the murder of this bright, talented, caring, young Israeli American only hours after his funeral. She wrote, "Privileged white man leaves US to violently colonize another people, gets killed by the people he's robbing and oppressing. Simultaneously, his colonizer friends go on a murderous rampage, committing a pogrom in Nablus. And you all are upset over this human garbage." Let that sink in. Susan Abel-Hawa wrote that this week, as Ilan's parents had only just buried their son. And she knew full well that she was on her way to attend the Adelaide Festival as a guest of the South Australian taxpayer. Peter Malinauskas, you should hang your head in shame. But it's not as if this is a one-off or an isolated incident. Here's Mohammed El-Kurd, another writer at the Truth Be Told Adelaide Writers Festival. In fact, he's the warm-up act for Susan Abel-Hawa, coming on in the hour before her. El-Kurd once described Zionists. Remember, a Zionist is just someone who believes that the Jews should have their own homeland in Israel. El-Kurd describes Zionists, which is just everyday Jews, as having, quote, an unquenchable thirst for Palestinian blood. I think that pretty much fits the accepted definition of anti-Semitism, don't you? Or hate speech? Or how about when El-Kurd once said about Israeli security forces, after first referring to them as pigs, that, quote, "I hope every one of them dies in the most tortuous and slow ways. I hope that they see their mothers suffering," end of quote. El-Kurd, clearly not the most tolerant of individuals. Indeed, I think that pretty much fits the definition of hate speech, hoping to see the innocent mothers of security personnel suffer. Suffer what? I hate to think. As the Australian newspaper reports, El-Kurd has written scores of tweets that prompted the New York-based Anti-Defamation League and EJAC to write to Adelaide Festival organisers to say they were giving a platform to unvarnished anti-Semitism. Indeed, El-Kurd, much like Susan Abulhawa, seems to never be lost for words. He has described Israel as demonic, quote, sadistic, quote, and a death cult, quote. He's labelled Zionists as barbaric neo-Nazi pigs, quote, with a lust for Palestinian blood, quote, and compared Israel with the Nazi regime whose genocide led to the creation of the Jewish state, including Israel of Kristallnaching Palestinian people. Last year, South Australia's Labor Premier Peter Malinauskas personally wrote to the head, the highly respected Australian Jewish Association, Dr. David Adler. And here is the letter where Labor Premier Peter Malinauskas writes that, quote, "I share your view that anti-Semitism is to be abhorred. And, quote, my government will not tolerate anti-Semitic behaviours within our community." And then Peter Malinauskas, Labor Premier of South Australia, makes this specifically personal commitment in writing, signed, quote, "I will fight against anti-Semitic behaviour." Well, Mr. Malinauskas, I think you've mixed up your F words. You don't fight those with anti-Semitic beliefs by funding them. This is fighting. Handing out the cash, that's funding. There's a difference. Malinauskas, however, claims that he can't interfere with the festival and he can't cancel its funding, which he should do today, because to do so, he said, would set us on a path to a future where politicians decide what is culturally appropriate and lead us down the path to Putin's Russia. Nice try, Mr. Malinauskas, but that is utter garbage. Firstly, your government and all Labor governments spend most of the time doing nothing but deciding what is culturally appropriate, from Indigenous voices to gender indoctrination of our kids to diversity and inclusion programs. You guys fund all of it all the time. So don't come the government interference in free speech argument with me. Susan Abulhawa and Mohammed El-Kurd are free to say whatever they like, no matter how appalling, and tweet whatever they like whenever they like, and live with the consequences. What you, Mr. Premier, are not or should not be free to do is to use taxpayers' money, including money earned by hard-working Jewish South Australians, to pay for other people to hear their repugnant views. That is a disgrace. You are a disgrace. You made a personal commitment in writing to a respected member of the Jewish community that you personally will fight anti-Semitism. Instead, you are funding those who promote it. That makes you, Mr. Malinauskas, oh, what's that word again? Oh, yes, I'll find it. A hypocrite. Yes, I can find the right words when I need to.